Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I got the camera down there where I get the full crab into the logo here, and my Light City shot from my very own window from the realtor who's going to sell my condo and the beautiful view of Baltimore we have here. It's been my friend a long time. I may or may not have illicitly bought him alcoholic beverages in Ocean City 30 years ago, or however long ago it was in senior week. Jeff Mohler joins us now. Now his dad knows the secret's out. It's okay. Dad and I are tight. What's up, dude?
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
I'm well, man. How's COVID life? Kids back to school. Uncle Larry says take the masks off. Houses must be selling in Mohler and Gary, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what, Nestor, there is no inventory out there right now. So if you're looking to sell, now's a good time because there's just nothing on the market right now. But
well, I'm looking to sell. So let's say I'm looking to sell and I call a guy like you. Is the first thing you do talk about comparables, or is it talk about the Terps in the tournament next week and how excited you are that you're going to take your kids to opening day now? And, Dad, we're not going to do no more social distancing. We're all going to go to the ball game all of a sudden. But, this is – you and I are sports fans, and it's been a year this week, right? And I haven't been the same sports fan the last year, right? I mean, I'll readily admit that to anyone. I've changed my business. Your dad and I get together and blab with, leaders all around the community, which is cool, but I haven't watched an NBA game. I haven't watched a hockey game. I have not watched I watched a little bit of a Terps football game last year when they were kicking Penn State snot, which I loved. Basketball, I've watched Morcell dribble 4 or 5 times. I haven't been interested in it. It's felt to me very Eddie Feigner. It hasn't felt like real life to me. It hasn't felt urgent. It hasn't felt significant. It hasn't felt important to me. The Ravens did. Nothing else has. I kind of want that to change. I kind of want to get that old magic back,
Yeah, well, a pandemic will do that to you. It kind of puts things in perspective a little bit. And I don't think you're alone. I mean, it's funny how sometimes things happen to put things in perspective and change what your priorities are. And it doesn't mean that you don't love sports, don't love watching it, but sometimes you take a step back and you realize that some things are more important. So nobody faults you for not watching as much as you used to. You got bigger plans that you're focused on, and that's certainly nothing wrong with that. I think we all need a little bit of that.
I would think when it comes to the Orioles, look, you and I are always sideways, the old man, the whole deal, right? I mean, like, they took my press pass 15 years ago. I don't even know what to say after what we've witnessed in this country with leadership and the media, people I know in the Annapolis Capitol getting murdered. You know what I mean? So I take it differently for what's happened with them for me in my life. But I did, for the first time in my life, it might make me cry to talk about it, but I looked in the closet and I took my Dundalk jacket, which you've probably seen, my Capitals jersey, my Skipjacks jersey, my Ravens jersey, because it's not in season, and my Orioles jersey, and I put it in a box. And I just said, you know what? Because the closet was kind of falling apart, and we had to put some. And I'm like, just put it in a box. I'm not going to wear the Oriole jersey this year. If I go to an Oriole game, I'm going to wear something else. I have other stuff. I have a ball cap. I have things, But I'm just sort of like, I'm putting that away for now, until it comes back to me. I put my Lamont Jordan jersey away. I'll have you know.
Well, sports aren't back. I mean, we can watch it on TV, but that, you're talking about the Orioles. It's like, I can't wait to go back to the park, but I'm not going back to the park yet. I think we're getting closer to that, but it's just different. And Madison, I can't even watch it on TV. I can't even watch spring training on TV. So it's really hard to kind of get back into it.
Dude, I've stopped kicking them. You know what I mean? I'm like rooting for something that I don't even know what the hell I'm rooting for, because we need to have a new owner. That's obvious. If you listen to this clown this week, go on and on with the flagship. Dude, show up. Be present. Know someone. Care. Meet Don Mohler. He's a good guy. He ran things around here. He knows people. If you know him, you may know some other people that may actually save the franchise. Saving the franchise is where I am. It's where I was with Free the Birds 15 years ago, which was, if you keep running it this way, no one will come. And that was before Washington had a championship and a team and a starting rotation and Hall of Fame players and fans and money and all of that. This is a serious issue for the community, as I see Light City behind me. as to what will make more than you and your dad, hardcores, people who name their child Brooks, people like you that are always going to be there no matter what happens, even when they take your buddy's press pass away. You're going to go. But then there's people like me and tons of people like me that I know that don't go anymore, that kind of want to go. And they're kind of looking for a reason to go that's above and beyond a team that's going to lose 100 games this year, or just to get a night out. Because I have discovered other things like hiking with my wife, in Patterson Park and walking around. Just other things I enjoy doing besides being there watching a bad baseball team, And I know that's not going to change this year, but I can't be the guy down on them now because they are in peril. They need to be saved, not vilified, because they're not even putting their games on TV, to your point. To go back to the original point, what could I possibly say about them when they're not even showing you the games?
Right. Well, the fact that they're not streaming, in today's world, that you can't stream an Oriole game is ridiculous. And it, I think Michael Elias is doing a wonderful job. I think there is, the future is bright, but how can we connect with Adley Rutschman or Grayson Rodriguez? We can't even see them. This is the chance. They're not going to be playing on opening day of those guys, but we can watch them in spring training and be like, oh, I can't wait till this guy makes it up to the big leagues and I can see him at Camden Yards. We can't even experience that. So
it's kind of like the people last year saying, why don't you like Trump? And I'm like, he recommended that we take bleach. You know what I mean? What part of this is hard for you to understand? Why do the Orioles not warrant my support? They don't even put the games on. They don't even want me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I've built a company. I built a life for 30 years around loving them, my family name. By the way, I found the coolest gift that someone gave me, and I wish I knew who gave it to me. Someone dropped off at the radio station, and if I had it in here, I'd hold it up. It's a 1964 News American, not the Sun, the News American, their Sunday insert, their parade section, the Sun magazine. Louis Aparicio is on the cover. It's pristine. It's mint condition. Still it's that Polaroid color from 1964. It's not even yellowed. And he's wearing this Baltimore jersey. He just arrived, and he was the subject of Little Louie. And there was no story to it. It was a bunch of black and white pictures of him sliding into second base in a White Sox jersey. But it's the coolest thing. So, I love that jersey. I love the Orioles. I love the tradition. I love opening day. I love baseball. I don't know that I love current baseball. Do you love current baseball? Do you like when the left fielder lines up in center field and the shortstop's at second? For a guy have you fallen into analytics and Luke's way into it? I kind of want to be into it, but I want a team to make me into it. I need broadcasters not named Gary Thorne who make fun of it, right? Part of the educational experience for your child is your child's never going to keep a box score with grandpa at the game, right? And your kids love baseball. How are they with analytics and you?
Yeah, well, my son he's growing up in this era, so he's kind of into it.
Well, he's on the internet. Your kid's way into it in that way, right?
Yeah, but I'm not into the 3.5 hour games. They're way too long. I'm not into the designated hitter. I've always preferred the National League way of things where the pitcher had to hit. I thought that always played a part into it and sped up the games as well. So, but they're going the opposite way on that one. So I prefer faster games. I prefer, all the shifts. I guess I'm okay with that, Nestor, because guys need to learn how to hit the ball the other way.
But they're not. That's the point. They're not. It's a home run. It's a strikeout. It's a walk. It's long counts. It's pitchers who disappear in the fifth inning. I don't really recognize it. I'm not being a jerk. Just from where I was sitting in Royal Stadium in 2014, right? From where I was sitting in 30 ballparks in 30 days. Know anybody else that's done that, Jeff? No, right? I went around the country and sat in the ballparks and watched the game change. Since then, when I put it on now, players, names, positions, the way the game is talked about on Major League Baseball Network, which is a different game with analytics than it's kind of like fantasy sport. I don't play fantasy sports. So when I sit around on a Sunday morning and the guy on ESPN, the Barry guy shows up and he's talking about all this nonsense, I'm like, the hell does this have to do with the game? You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
there's a game inside the game and gambling and all that goes into it. But the analytics part of the game, it hasn't chased me away, but they haven't done a great job of recruiting me in to making it fascinating for me. The way hit and run and stolen bases and RBIs and wins and losses and whatever those measurables were, even if they were a little more raw and they're not as refined and they're not as savvy as Sig Mejdal, and I will agree to all of that. But there comes a point when I think where I need to relearn the game, right? It's not about me coming back to baseball and Brooks and Boog and the players and me falling in love with Adley Rutschman the way I did with Matt Wieters, the way I wanted to with Earl the Big Cat Williams, which is a little before your time, by the way. But I think when the time comes for me to pull the jersey out and for old time's sake to go see the old statues and, go pay my money and go to a game that matters, whenever that is, 23, 24, whenever Mike Elias builds the team that you and your dad believe he's building, right? And when we go out there and it's competitive again and it's full again, and I'm there with my son, with you, with your son who will be 18 at the time, right? It's hard for you to imagine paying for college at this point. But whenever that is, the game we're watching, what will we be talking about in regard to what they're trying to do? Because the game's so different now. I mean, Earl Weaver, if he came back, what the hell's going on out there? What are they doing? It'd have to be explained to him. He'd pick it up because we're smart. But are you at that point with your children that they're sailing away from talking about the game with your dad because of the way they're going to have to talk about the game? Because the game's moving that way. It just is, right?
Yeah, well, I think there's some things that can be done. They're not there yet, Nestor, but I like technology can bring you back in. Like they've flirted with putting a camera behind home plate where you can see the pitch coming in. So if you're sitting at home, that's a different perspective. Like you get an idea of what it's like to stand in the batter's box as a big leaguer. So I think they can do things like that, but you're not going to sit around for 3.5 hours. The game is too slow. They're going to lose a whole generation.
Well, the broadcasters have to be better. They need people like me. You know what I mean? They need upbeat,
right,
fun, crazy. They need a reason to watch.
Right.
I mean, I'm literally like, my wife likes the Red Sox and doesn't want to watch the Red Sox because it's like, it's a freaking Wednesday night. We just came out of a plague. I'm not going to sit here and watch grass grow and a green wall.
I don't want to feel like I'm having a foot read to me when I'm watching a game. It's too. Yeah, you're right. It's. And I hate to do this, but like Melanie Newman, I think she's really talented, but her delivery it's so monotonous. You're like, good Lord, I need some energy, especially if I'm gonna be sitting watching or listening to a game for 3.5 hours.
I've never heard Melanie Newman's voice. I'm being completely honest. Like this whole new generation, they had some kid running around the stadium a couple of years ago making social media videos when the team was like 1-13, and it was like laughable. And I'm like, oh dear. And now they've basically fired everybody I know, pretty much. Like Ben McDonald's still like, what are they going to put on the television? What am I going to find when I tune in? I guess Garceau and Ben, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ben McDonald's great.
Ben's great. I love him.
I think they need more Ben McDonald. I think they need faster games, faster pace, more guys like Ben McDonald, and better camera angles so you can feel like you're part of the game when you're not at the stadium. They just need to speed it up. It's just too – you're going to lose a whole generation of kids if it's 3.5 hours. The game moves too slow. It's not like football where it's faster pace. Kids are going to go play lacrosse. I mean, you can't – you got to speed up.
Spoken from a kid who played lacrosse.
Correct.
Jeff Mohler is here, Mohler and Gary Realty. Of course, you hear Don on with me all the time. Jeff and I have been lifer pals as well. And you're the bigger sports fan than your dad at this point. I mean, your dad and I did sports huddles 30 years ago. By the way, it's my 30th year. It'll be 29 years in 2 weeks. Day, 29. The Rick Sutcliffe opening day was in 92, April 92. Be 29 years. Me, Tom Cap, Dave Muir, and your dad were on the roof of the Holiday Inn broadcasting, for the Rick Sutcliffe Day I wish I had pictures of that. We didn't carry like cameras back then. I still have Rosigliano's artwork, so I'll share that. Tell everybody what's going on in the realty world, and then we'll get back to some sports because I know you want to talk some Terps too. I mean, the reason I invited you on, believe it or not, is you're the one out there loving Turgeon, hating Turgeon, loving like every day. You know, you're that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So and then we haven't got the Terps, but give me a little real estate primer because as my view is here, and I've lived downtown for 18 years. My wife wants like a grill outside and like we want to have a garden. You know, we don't have that. So we're at that point where we're getting transitional here on the other end of the plague. She had her shot. I'm in line. Pops had his shot. I know. Mom had her shot. So people post-plague planning, right? A little bit.
Right.
And rates are low. This is a very interesting time in America, I think, I always wonder what it was like after the war to sort of pick it up in the eyes, like to rebuild the country again. And I sense that we're going in that direction, and real estate's got to be a foundational part of that. And it's going to be real trouble for commercial, right? Real trouble.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, Nestor. The pandemic didn't really have a negative impact on the real estate market locally. It just didn't. It actually
didn't drive any price down or anything like that, right?
Nothing. I mean, it went the opposite way. Uber competitive, and now, you know, rates are creeping up a little bit, and they're probably going to continue to creep up a little bit. But there's just no inventory. So now you're having people overbidding, foregoing any inspection contingencies on houses. It's really important how you structure your contract if you want to win, because a lot of these properties that are desirable have multiple offers. So it's very, very competitive, and prices are, you know, being inflated as well because people are just they're sick of battling, so they just overbid on these properties. There's just nothing on the market.
Thinking I'm getting 2.5%, whatever. I'll pay $10,000 too much. It'll wash out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And it's putting a strain on appraisers because now they have to go find comps to support a higher price.
Well, there are no comps for my place, as you know.
Right. Exactly. And they don't. So it does cause a bit of an issue. It's not, you know, it's not my favorite. I love what I do, but it's a tough market for buyers. It's a great, you know, I mean, the rates are fantastic. You can certainly get a lot of bang for your buck with these low rates. And as a seller, hey, it's a great time to sell, you know, without question. All your listeners, if you're on the fence, give me a call because I can tell you what we can do for you. And I think we'll be very successful getting your house sold for a great price. It's so competitive out there right now. And you need a professional to guide you through the process and to get the most out of the real estate experience.
Jeff Mohler's here. He is Mohler and Gary Realty. His pops joins me for lots and lots of conversations around here, including the Recon, which we're doing every Monday now. Big shout out to our newest sponsor, Wise Markets. We're going to eat better. We're going to spend less. We're going to learn a lot about nutrition along the way. Big shout out to my pal Rob Santoni for supporting that. But for all the Wise Markets in town, we're going to be out. Man, they have a chicken breast that they do this 3 peppercorn thing on that I can't find the peppercorn the same way. And they put like a garlic thing. It's like a garlic pepper thing. It's crazy. And I can't find it. So I had to make friends with the Wise people so I can get it on the inside because we like eating it on nachos and salsa. So we're going to be doing a lot of cooking in the kitchen with some Wise product as well. And having a Wise conversation right now with Jeff Mohler from Mohler and Gary Realty. All right, to the Terps. And I'll leave the Ravens alone. I mean, you know, go listen to DeCosta, Harbaugh, and, you know, all that stuff. But we'll get up on free agency in the draft. But you're a Terps guy.
I am.
You know, you're always with the Terps. The Morcell era has been interesting. I don't know how it's going to end here next week, week after, whatever. I'm pretty convinced they're not winning the national championship this month.
Right. Well, I don't even know if they're going to make the tournament, which would be a shame. I mean, you can't be terribly optimistic about going up against Penn State, who they beat handily recently, but they're trending in 2 different directions. And that could be a game where it's a game between 2 teams that the winner's going to make the tournament and the loser won't. So that's probably where they played themselves. And look, all they had to do, Nestor, was beat Northwestern or beat Penn State, 2 teams at the bottom of the conference.
Well, they had Penn State beaten, right? Literally, they were beating Penn State most of the night.
Right. And they were up on Northwestern late in the game. But when you don't have a point guard and you don't have a big man and you don't have somebody who can really shoot from the outside, it's tough.
Well, how tough do you want to be on Turgeon then? You just made the excuses of they don't have the horses, right?
Well, because it's college sports, so you got to say, okay, well, they don't have these guys. Well, in college, it's the coach's job to recruit those players, so you do have those guys that can put games away for you late in the season. So that is on him. And Turgeon, I do think that this has been his best coaching job because I don't think they have a lot. So I think the fact that he's had them relevant for most of the season is impressive.
In a plague.
So I think that's done a good job. But what's happened at the end of the season is what's happened to his teams every year at the end of the season. And that is they just fade away. When the going gets tough and they have to really compete and he has to outcoach another good team and they have to outplay another team who is looking for to make the tournament as well, they generally come up on the short end of the stick. And that is a fair criticism of Mark Turgeon. And I've always said, look, I don't think he's a bad coach, but I think there's a very clear ceiling. I don't think he's capable of getting a team past the Sweet 16, and getting to the Sweet 16 has always been a challenge. So I think there's some big decisions. Damon Evans has some big decisions to make coming up soon. But whether you stay the course and, hey, we'll be competitive, or are you going to make a change and try to get yourself to be a national contender every year?
Well, it's basketball season. We may have a horse race here in the spring. I know you're going to get the clubs out. You're playing in the Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital tournament with my good friend Leonard Raskin in a couple weeks as well. So golf, basketball, your kids playing lacrosse, baseball, all that stuff's going on here. We're getting close to normal, right? I mean, it's been a hell of a year, but even baseball games, I'm feeling like at some point there might be that beer on the lawn at Merriweather, that's going to be my high watermark this summer, if possible.
Well, it's been a long time coming, but yeah, you're starting to see a little bit of signs, Nestor, of getting back to normal, and it feels good. It's going to be 70 degrees tomorrow, so we're starting to get those feelings of of normalcy. And then the cicadas are going to hit in May. And then
oh, love that, man. You're going to put yours in chocolate or Old Bay? What's going to be on your cicadas? I don't know.
We'll find out.
I think this is my year to eat one.
I don't buy that at all, man. You got to do it on one of your shows, though.
Thinking about it. All right. Jeff Mohler's here at Mohler & Gary Realty. Find him on the internet. Of course, find his dad and I out at BaltimorePositive.com. We're circling the wagons on all things Ravens. Obviously, the Terps in March Madness, and the Orioles a couple of weeks away, even though they don't let you watch them on TV. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive in the beautiful Light City.